Hello and welcome to another episode of the Nerva Beacon podcast with myself, Glenn, and joining me as always over the other side of the TARDIS in the secondary console room, it is of course Leigh.
Hello.
Hello. Or maybe I'm in the secondary console room, who knows?
Well, my flat's big enough to be the TARDIS. Looks tiny on the outside. You walk in and the hallway is 30 foot long.
Oh, well, there you go. You run up and down it.
Yep.
It'd be like Leitira Troughton.
Yep.
Excellent stuff. You're going to get some roundel wallpaper? You can get it, apparently.
Yeah, I've seen it, but I don't know. Maybe in the spare room.
Yeah. I want to get some of that stuff I put up on the Facebook page the other day.
Peter Davison wallpaper.
Apparently that's super rare, and it was super rare at the time. But I only know about it because it was on the swap shop, multicoloured swap shop, as a prize. But apparently in the wild it was super, super rare, even at the time.
I'm pretty sure there's somewhere that will make it for you.
Must be somewhere that can sort of screen print it or something.
Yeah,
but you need a good image, that's the problem. You need a good Google image. You need good luck finding that on Google. Just doesn't exist. Other than that, how's your week been? How are you?
Oh, I'm alright. Week's fine. Shingles, never mind.
Yay. And got up to anything suitably Doctor Who-ish over the week?
Bottom cups.
Yeah?
Yeah, watched loads of Doctor Who cups and been watching this third Doctor mostly.
Well, yes. Because we are, if you hadn't already guessed, talking about the third Doctor this week. I got those Doctor Who mugs. I didn't want to say at the time. I was waiting to get them a couple of weeks ago. And then they came just after the podcast came out. And it's like, yes, I've got the Doctor Who Mr. Men mugs. Because they're awesome.
Yes, they are. I want them too.
They are pretty cool. I'll need them to bring out the next set. Including the Doctor Third. Because Doctor Third, I think it's Doctor Third, Doctor Second, Sixth and Seventh, I think. The other one, I'm not that bothered about Doctor Ninth. Like in everything else, the Ninth Doctor, not that fussed. There was one other thing I'll mention before we do start talking about the Third Doctor. There was that whole Billy Piper thing. Were you following that this week?
Yes, apparently she's opened a shop.
That's all it was. That's literally all it was. Cynical marketing. Oh, I didn't know putting a rose emoji on my post would cost so much stuff.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, yes, you did. The BBC should sue your ass off for that. All she did was make a lot of fans very unhappy, and then a lot of fans like me very happy.
Yeah, because she's not coming back.
I don't want her back. Her story's done. The only character that could come back was Sarah Jane. But yeah, I don't want Billy back. Thanks. But that was cynical marketing ploy. That was.
Come back. She's all divorced.
She divorced again.
No, what I want to say what I was thinking was I'd love Martha to come back and.
Oh, Martha. Sorry,
yeah.
I thought you meant Billy.
No, I don't think she's married again.
Yeah, she is.
Is she?
I think she is. Yeah, I think she is.
Well, you can tell I don't follow her.
No, I couldn't care less about Billy Piper. I did mention a few weeks back that I thought she wasn't that good an actress, and the ire I got from some people. She's a queen! It's like, she might be a queen, but she can't act. But there you go. The only other thing that I will mention is there's a rumour, it's just a rumour out there, that Doctor Who might be changing nights from Saturday nights to Sunday nights. Something to do with Strictly and kids not being able to watch. I don't want this to happen if it's going to happen. I don't like them cocking around with the nights.
Because they put it on, really.
Well, I don't. It smacks to me that they're not confident in the star.
Yeah.
That's what it's going to portray, isn't it? That's what people are going to say.
Mm-hmm. That
they're not confident that Jodie Whittaker can carry a Saturday night. And it's like, well, we don't want to get to that stage because the last time they did that was in the JNT era, and the net sort of thing of that was that they cancelled it.
Well,
we don't want that.
Coronation Street.
Oh yeah, that was totally. I mean, I think before they just wanted something to compete with Coronation Street and thought, well, we'll try Doctor Who. And then came obviously the Jonathan Powell era, which was basically we want to kill it.
Yeah.
Put it against something that we know will beat it in the ratings. Where normally we would put a repeat of The Good Life, basically. But, again, it's just a rumour. Nobody official has come back and said, this is definitely what's going to happen. And, it might work out for the best. A lot of people seem to be quite happy if it would be the case. But because I'm old and crusty and I dislike change, it doesn't sound like a good idea. So, but anyway, we shall move on to the main meat of the podcast meat, as it were. The Third Doctor.
Yes, I forgot how much I loved him. I love his childishness, basically. He's the most childish out of the lot of them. He's always going off in straws. Yeah.
I can be childish if I want to.
Yes.
I like being childish.
Yes, exactly like that.
It's weird for me because when I was growing up, I didn't know anything about the Third Doctor. So as I was concerned, the Doctor was this bloke with the big long scarf, curly hair and big teeth.
Yeah.
And then he transformed into some bloke who liked cricket. To me, the actor John Pertwee was a very different kind of character, and that of Wurzel Gummidge.
Yes, Wurzel. Good old
Wurzel. Oh, I'm sorry. I used to fucking love Wurzel Gummidge as well.
Yeah, he terrified me, that Wurzel Gummidge, because he was all...
Yeah, it's scary. Especially Wurzel Gummidge in New Zealand. Or Wurzel Gummidge Down Under, I think they called it, didn't they? But yeah, that was proper scary, especially the Crowman.
Oh, yeah.
His creator and boss, basically, wasn't he, Crowman? Played by Geoffrey Belden.
Yeah, very sensitive.
Who was not only in Doctor Who, he could have been... Well, he was Doctor. He was the Doctor, kind of, because he was in the Unbound. Mm-hmm. He was an Unbound Doctor, wasn't he?
Was.
So, yeah, for years touted as a potential Doctor, and finally became one in the Unbound series. But, yeah, worked with John Pertwee. Also worked with Mrs. Hudson there, because obviously Una Stubbs played Aunt Sally.
Yeah. Oh.
I'm actually putting a Wurzel Gummidge on the Back to the 80s page. Mm-hmm. And I watched it, and I realised how awful a character Aunt Sally is.
Yeah, she is. She's awful.
She's got no redeeming features whatsoever. But anyway, like I say, I didn't know him. So when I found out that John Pertwee played the Doctor when I was about, 10, it was like, hang on a minute, no, that's Wurzel Gummidge.
But Doctors by any chance?
What's that, sorry?
Was that the first time you'd seen him as the Doctor in the Five Doctors?
5 Doctors, exactly that, yeah. My aunt bought me a video of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, what? What? I'd read a few Target novelisations, but in the Target novelisations I had, they didn't have a picture of his Doctor on them. So I kind of knew the Third Doctor, but I didn't know that. Anyway, we're getting off the beaten track. Just to give you a bit of real-world context on the Third Doctor, in Patrick Troughton's midway through his second season, he decided to leave the show. So he gave them 18 months' notice to find another Doctor. So they did, and they tried. And the first person they actually mooted was the actor Ron Moody. Figured out of Oliver. Wouldn't have been a bad choice. I think could have been a good choice. He was approached and he said no. And he later went on to say it was the worst decision in his professional life that he'd ever made. That he should have said yes. Thankfully he didn't, because otherwise we wouldn't have had the wonderful John Pertwee as the Doctor. But the other thing that the BBC wanted was budget cuts, because budget cuts were going on in the BBC at that time. I'd say it seemed to always be going on, but especially back then. So the decision was taken by outgoing producer Derek Sherwin to limit the time that he'd spend in space or have space adventures, and also to cut the number of episodes down from the usual sort of 7 to 4. You'd have one big sort of 7-part episode a season, but otherwise you'd have sort of four episodes for a story. New production team came in, comprising of the wonderful Barry Letts, who was an actor but became a producer and a director. His script editor, the absolutely marvellous and godlike Terence Dix. Well, Barry said to me, you see, and and brand new production team, but those were the two guys who basically took Doctor Who and completely rebooted the show. It was their idea to bring in Unit. It was their idea to mainly keep it Earthbound from then on in.
Yeah.
And to have companions like Joe Grant, Sarah Jane Smith. Derek Sherwin's main input was Liz Shaw, because he wanted a companion that on Earth would be able to converse with the Doctor in a way that they would understand the Doctor. They would help him rather than be a hindrance, because Derek Sherwin felt that that's what the Doctor needed. Much in the style of Quatermass. It was very heavily influenced by things like Quatermass was the third Doctor.
That's in the first series, definitely.
Oh, absolutely. They are Quatermass stories. You could quite happily put Quatermass in there. Now, they did think about approaching Nigel Neal, but either he wasn't. It's a bit shady. I keep hearing different things. Either he didn't want to work with Doctor Who, or they felt that the problem with Nigel Neal stories that they are all pretty much the same.
Yeah.
They're very good stories, but they're pretty much the same story. A bit like Terry Nation.
Yeah.
That's the main problem I find with Terry Nation, is that he did tend to phone it in a bit. But yeah, so they took influences from Quatermass. The other thing that was popular at the time was James Bond, so they wanted to put a bit of James Bond in there. And when they did finally cast John Pertwee asked the producers, how do you want me to play it? And they said, well, just be John Pertwee. And he said, well, who the hell's that? Because he didn't know, like a lot of character actors, he never really played himself, and he didn't really know who he was. Yeah. So he credits Barry Letts solely with finding out who he really was. Yeah,
even Cary Grant felt like that at times. He says, even I want to be Cary Grant. I'm just plain old Archie Leach from Bristol.
Well, same with Peter Sellers. He didn't know. Apparently he's quite famous that when he was on the Muppet Show, they asked him to be himself in certain parts, because, that's what you did, didn't it? And he said, well, what am I supposed to do? I don't know. He probably got really stressed out because he didn't know who the hell Peter Sellers was. Always playing a character, you see. Yeah. But yeah, so Pertwee took the gig, and they wrote it around him. But they decided that rather than give him just one companion, they give him a team, because apparently John liked to have his team around him. So they gave him Unit, and they gave him characters. In the first Pertwee season, they gave the Brigadier. You had peripheral characters, like Captain Hawkins. Benton and Yates would come later. Because Unit wasn't a brand new creation. Unit was something that had been around since Troughton's time.
Yeah, the Yeti and the side stories.
Yeah.
Web of Fear, yeah, that's it.
Web of Fear, yeah. And of course, Nicholas Courtney, who played the Brigadier, had been with the first Doctor as well.
Had he? Oh, yes, Brett Vyon.
Yes, exactly. Who was around when Katarina got blitzed.
Yes.
Oh, poor Katarina. But really, they had to get rid of her. She didn't know what the key was. Anyway, so yes, the characters would come later. One of my favourite characters he's only in the Silurians, and that's Captain Hawkins. And the reason I like him is because he's played by Paul Darrow, who played Avon in Blake 7. He's awesome. I don't care what he's in. I just want him in everything. Because he's in all the Caldor City stuff as well.
Yes, and what's that? Is that the one, the Sixth Doctor story?
Oh, Time Lash.
Yes, Time Lash. Sure it is.
Yeah. He's in all the Caldor City stuff, which is the Robots of Death stuff.
Yeah, I remember that.
And I forget what his character's name is, but it's sort of in some of the audios, it's kind of explicitly stated that basically, this is Avon under a different name. It's Avon. Come on now. But anyway, he's in the Silurians, but we'll get onto that in just a second. But yeah, he had his team around him. He was very earthbound with the odd jaunt into space. He had 3 companions. Liz Shaw for the first season. He had Joe Grant for 3 seasons after that. And then his last season, he had Sarah Jane Smith, played by the brilliant Liz Sladen. That's the real world context basically done. Leigh.
Go on.
What do you like about the third Doctor?
Well, very childish.
Very childish.
I like the way he thinks he can just order everybody around and everybody just ignores him.
Yeah, especially Joe.
Yes. Go and make me.
Do this.
No.
I'm not doing that.
No, I've been looking instead. And she uses these stirring rods to make cups of tea with.
So one of my favourite bits is, can I do anything, Doctor? Yes, pass me that silicon rod. He stirs his tea with it. Twat.
What was the episode? I can't remember. The episode where he came in and finds Joe Grant and Sergeant Benton making cups of tea on his Bunsen burner.
Oh, yeah, I can't remember. But yeah, I know what you said. I know which.
He
Yeah.
goes off his trolley about this.
Oh, yeah. This is my scientific equipment.
just go, huh, mind, eh?
Well, because, yeah, it's Joe and Benson. They don't care.
Sergeant Benton's my favourite out of the lot.
I like Benton. Because he is everyman, basically. My favourite, though, is actually Mike Yates. Other than the obvious Brigadier. Everyone loves the Brigadier. But I like Yates, because they did a bit with Yates. He had a character arc, which is very rare for a sort of peripheral companion type character in Doctor Who. Because obviously he started off as steadfast Captain Mike Yates, and then he had a bit of a crisis of confidence and a breakdown, and then he joined the bad guys, and then by the end of the third Doctor's thing, he was sort of persona non grata at UNIT, but the Doctor had forgiven him.
Yeah.
Very odd to have a big character arc like that for a peripheral. But yeah, the third Doctor himself, as you said, he's a bit pompous.
Yes, absolutely.
Which, funnily enough, turns a lot of people off. A lot of people don't like it. Is the fact that the Doctor essentially is supposed to be anti-establishment, but he kind of becomes establishment.
Well, he's spent that long around it.
Well, that and the fact that he is, after all, he's a Time Lord, isn't he? And he's got that thing where he can either get on with it or he can mope. And he's just going to get on with it, and he's going to have to do it in the framework with which he's been provided. So it's not... Oh, sorry.
Basically, the framework is being provided with a complete bloody army to deal with.
And, yeah, exactly. He's in a funny position because effectively he's military. Or he's working with the military, but what he really doesn't like is stupid bureaucrats. That's a running theme throughout the whole of his era, is the stupid bureaucrat getting in the way. You see that in the Silurians, you see that in the Sea Devils, you see it in the Claws of Axos. Mr. Chin especially is a total asshole. But you got that guy in the Sea Devils who just walks in and says to Captain Hart, right, Walker, his name is. I'm just going to take over here now. Where's my breakfast? And he's eating his breakfast and bombing the Sea Devils and giving orders to launch nukes at the Sea Devils and stuff like that. And he knows people will die, but fuck them, eh? Collateral damage. It's fine. Where's my eggs and bacon?
Yeah.
And it's that kind. That's another enemy that the third Doctor has to sort of go against. Is this bureaucratic Whitehall? It's very anti-Whitehall. Is the third Doctor's era.
That's the running through all of the Doctor's life.
Yeah, bureaucracy.
The way.
Sort of bureaucracy getting in the way and red tape and things like that. Obviously, at the start, one of the best things that happened is the whole thing, the whole resolution to the Silurians. You've got the third Doctor leaving the situation, so the Silurians have gone back into hibernation and will come out again at some point. And the Doctor leaves it at that and says, well, I can study these guys, I can probably make a resolution later on down the line. And the Brigadier basically just blows the Silurians up. And that's carried over into the next few stories where the Doctor's very angry and doesn't really trust the Brigadier. Even though the Brigadier's had orders to do it from above. It shows a level of growth that the Brigadier in the later episodes, the later stories, he wouldn't have done that. He would have told them to get stuff done. He would have trusted the Doctor to find that other way.
Yeah.
Which is why I think maybe he's not in the Sea Devils. But yeah, so fighting.
He'd have had a right argument with Walker, wouldn't he? No.
Yeah, absolutely.
It would have been really hard to write that because it would have turned out a bit out of character eventually.
Yeah, because obviously one of the things that did happen in the Third Doctor's era is that because he had this team around him, then all the characters grew. All the characters had their little arcs. Like, the only one that didn't sort of change was Benton. Mm-hmm. He saw more, but he stayed Benton because some people just stayed the same.
Yeah.
But obviously, his first companion, Liz Shaw, do apologise, Liz Shaw, she is a scientist. She's a Cambridge scientist who is pulled from her job by the Brigadier to join unit. She doesn't want to, but she kind of stays once the Doctor joins because she feels that she can learn a lot from him. Mm-hmm. She's great.
Cynical about the Doctor's telling her about all of time and space and the TARDIS.
Yeah, because she's a scientist, and unless she sees proof of it, she's not going to believe it just on somebody say so.
Yeah, a bit like a proto-Dana Scully.
Yep. Yeah, very much so. Very much a proto-Dana Scully. And she does become sort of that cynical presence, but that doesn't last very long. It only lasts sort of the first couple of stories, doesn't it? Mm. After that, she will believe what the Doctor tells her more and more. And I think Liz Shaw was just a bit too far ahead of her own time.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Had she been around now, she would have been around a lot longer. I mean, she was Derek Sherwood's idea to have this character that was his basically kind of an intellectual equal, didn't need to ask the questions that maybe a companion needs to ask. I really like Liz Shaw. I really liked the stories that she's in.
Yes, I did. Ambassadors of Death. Yes.
Mm.
Yeah, I watched that one. That was bloody terrifying. That one.
That is, it's very, very Cold War paranoia, isn't it?
Yes. Out of all of them, that's the most terrifying one of all because it's got everything you could think of. It's even got criminal. Got the army different factions of the armies fighting each other over what's inside the capsule. Then you've got some criminals coming along to steal somebody else. Then you've got radiation poisoning, and then you've got people that are shooting each other up.
Yeah, it is a weird one because it's like you say, it's full of everything. It's got spies, it's got gangsters. It's got the guy who played Lester in Revenge of the Cybermen. That is probably your most Quatermass one with the when he's trying to open the capsule.
Mm-hmm. And,
what is the capital of Australia? And all that stuff. Mm. All right, open it up. It's violent as well. It's very violent. So they go on about the Hinchcliffe era, and they go on about the Sixth Doctor Sherwood era. Mm-hmm. I would say there's just as much violence in that, and it's nasty violence as well.
And very, very overly dramatic deaths.
Oh yeah, well, it wouldn't be Doctor Who if it wasn't, you know.
Yeah.
But Ambassadors is a cracking story, and Liz gets a lot to do in it as well, which is something I like. And it's the same with Silurians as well. Liz gets quite a lot to do. Again, quite a violent story is that as well.
Yeah.
And the Doctor getting really angry with there's so much red tape bollocks going on in that with Masters, brilliant Jeffrey Palmer, who again is a horrible death.
Yeah, oh God.
And
watch that bit for some reason. I close my eyes when that bit comes on. I just can't watch it.
Peter Mile, it is really nasty, especially when he just slumps against those railings.
Yeah.
That's proper bleak Threads type stuff, is that?
Disease along to everybody else.
I love the Silurians. It gets a bad rap, does the Silurians, but I don't know why. I think it's great.
It's a really, really, really good story. Sometimes I just think it's the dodgy rubber costumes that gets people's eyes up.
But I understand what people... Yeah, fine. Okay, the special effects aren't great. They didn't have any money. Look past that to the story, and it's a brilliant Cold War era, scared of aliens, scared of anything different story.
Yeah.
Because the bad guys essentially are the humans. because they're the ones who keep messing up. And, it's not dissimilar to the Hungry Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously those stories, because you've got one radical element in the Silurians that wants to destroy and keep man in its place. And it's always a tragedy, because most of the Silurian people, the Earth reptiles, or whatever you want to call them, they want peace, the same as everybody else. They just want to live their lives, and they're not allowed to, because these radical elements, they keep saying, no, we need to kill all of men, these stupid apes, we need to kill them all. And you see it in every Silurian story there's ever been, which is why they keep bringing them back, because they are good, and they do make a point. Mm-hmm. But the other good character in that, you've got a few. You've got Fulton Mackay as Dr. Quinn.
Yeah.
Who's great. I love Fulton Mackay. Again, potential fourth Doctor he was.
Was he? Yeah.
Yeah. He was one of the people they wanted to approach. And then you've got the great Peter Miles as Dr. Lawrence. I love Peter Miles. He would go on to play Nida in Genesis of the Daleks. Yes. But he's great. Although in this story you do find out that he does not have a full head of hair. And that every single appearance after that is probably a toupee. Yeah. But that's fine. He's still really good. Mm-hmm. And he has a horrible death as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But he's just sort of paranoid guy who thinks that everyone's against him. Even though Masters keeps telling him, no, I'm not against you. I'm on your side. I'm going to keep your name out of this report. Brilliant. But yeah, you do see that the Silurian sets a template for the rest of the Third Doctor, because you do see a lot of this science going bad stuff, which sort of raises its head really late on in the season in Inferno, which is brilliant. Yeah. I love Inferno. That's Doctor Who's evil universe.
Yeah, mirror universe. Yeah.
Exactly, it's their sort of Star Trek mirror universe thing. 7-parter, absolutely brilliant. Doctor tries to get the TARDIS to work, it goes wrong, and he ends up going to an alternate universe where an experiment is going on that's going on in our universe, but theirs at a much more advanced stage. They're drilling into the centre of the Earth to try and find out what's in the middle of the Earth, and it goes a bit wrong.
A lot wrong.
But it's got evil versions of all your favourite characters. So evil Benton, you've got evil Liz Shaw, who ends up being good Liz Shaw anyway. Mm-hmm. But the best one is the brigade leader, which is the Brigadier, and Nicholas Courtney chewing the scenery as a bad guy.
With his eye patch.
With his eye patch and his scar. It's so great. It's so brilliant. I love it so much. And if you've never checked it out, please check it out. It very Quatermass, because all the first season stories were, but a lot of people, and I've talked to a lot of people regarding this, and they do say that the first season are almost like sci-fi movies rather than Doctor Who adventures.
Mm-hmm. And that add a bit more comedy into it than the next few.
Yeah, the first season of the Third Doctor's period, they're pretty bleak. Mm. I guess because it sort of mirrors his mood. Because obviously he's not he's not happy to be in exile. He's not happy to be stuck on Earth. He gets very angry a lot of the first time. Prison. Yeah, he's a prisoner, so he gets very angry a lot of the time. It isn't until the second season when a certain new companion shows up. Again, it's one of those situations where everything's a bit hazy. So the official story is Caroline John, who played Liz Shaw, got pregnant and therefore wasn't asked back on the show. But apparently she wasn't going to be asked back on the show anyway. Because Letts and Dix didn't feel that narratively she made a lot of sense. It's the Romana thing again.
Yeah.
If you've got someone who knows as much as the Doctor, how are they going to explain things to the audience?
Yeah, that's right.
How are they going to get across to the audience? Because the companions' raison d'etre is that they are there to ask the questions that the audience are asking. But if you've got someone there who knows it already, it seems stupid that they would ask.
Yeah.
These days, it doesn't make much of a difference.
I think that way, I think Liz Shaw would have worked better once he got into space. Once he started travelling again.
Yeah, because everything would have been new to her. Whereas on Earth, alright, things are new to her on Earth as well, but regardless, she didn't come back, and it's a shame. And sadly, she's no longer with us. But she did do some Doctor Who stuff later on for Big Finish, and she did do some of the audio work as well when they did the soundtrack reconstruction. She came back as a narrator. So apparently she loves the time on Doctor Who, and she had no bad feelings towards any of the production crew or anything like that. She absolutely loved being associated with the programme, so that's always nice to hear. But they did bring next a very, very iconic companion, some people's favourite companion, in the form of Josephine Grant, played by the brilliant Katie Manning.
Yeah, that clothes that she wore.
Oh, she was in her early...
boots going across her rugged landscape.
Well, she was alright in that respect, because she always got to hold John Pertwee's hand.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know why she always got to hold John Pertwee's hand?
Because she was shagging him.
Well, allegedly.
Allegedly, yes.
Allegedly. That's apparently one of the reasons she had to leave.
Oh.
Allegedly. No, the actual reason that she... if you look at her first adventure, she didn't hold his hand in the first adventure. Mm-hmm. And what happened was, she famously has tremendously bad eyesight.
Mm-hmm.
And doesn't wear contact lenses, or didn't back then anyway. She wore glasses. So she took her glasses off to run. She ran across this field, and she ran straight into a tree and knocked herself out. For about half an hour.
Oh dear, cool.
And they were all very worried. So after that, Pertwee would grab her hand and he would lead her, because she couldn't see a thing. Still can't see a thing. Her eyesight she's famous for having shitty eyesight. So yeah, because she knocked herself out, Pertwee would always grab her hand and pull her along, basically. But yeah, boots over rugged landscapes. She was a bit of a clothes horse, was Jo. She was definitely a 1970s, early 20s girl.
Oh yeah.
Supposedly, Jo got her big break at unit because her uncle's a civil servant, bigwig at Whitehall, and got her in because she wanted to be a spy. And she'd done things like escapology courses because she didn't want to do... It was a language course or an escapology course. She chose the escapology. Which came in handy. And I would say sort of Pertwee's golden era started when Jo Grant came into the room. Mm-hmm. I said, I'm your new assistant. Oh no. Oh no. Really? Oh no. So he wasn't keen at all to have her. He wanted Liz Shaw back, but Jo said that the Brigadier had said that Liz had said that all he really needs is someone to hand him his test tubes and beakers and stuff. And Liz Shaw didn't want to do that anymore. So Jo became his assistant.
And she did an awful lot more than hand and stirring rods and beakers and test tubes.
She was great, was Jo, because she wasn't scared of anything.
Can't remember hearing her scream and everything.
She would, but usually it was when something sort of crept up behind her or something sort of popped in front of her. So the reason that anybody would scream, because she was startled. There's one in the Claws of Axos where she turns around and there's an axe on there. Mm-hmm. So she screams. And it's not it's like a shriek. Mm-hmm. If you go back and watch Doctor Who in the 70s, it got a real unfair reputation for just having girls who scream, because Liz Shaw didn't scream, certainly. Jo Grant didn't scream much. She certainly wasn't a weak-willed, scaredy cat girl.
Sarah Jane definitely didn't.
No, Sarah Jane run headlong into trouble, much as Jo Grant would. I mean, Jo Grant put herself in between the Doctor and the Demon. Between us all.
Yeah, she did. I think the companion I can remember screaming every bloody episode was Bonnie Langford.
And that wasn't her fault.
I know.
That was JNC. He told... She could... Again, it's a case of she could only work with material she'd been given, and she'd been given rubbish material. Yeah. But Jo Grant certainly didn't. And she would, get in harm's way and help the Doctor and be a bit of a badass. And the great thing... Oh, sorry.
I was trying to say, like in the Green Death, where she takes the cat basket out and goes and catches a giant maggot.
Yeah, because she's a badass. And again, the best thing about Jo is the fact that she had this great character progression, because at the start, when she first came into Doctor Who, she was a bit naive. She wasn't very good at anything. She was a bit clumsy because she was a 20-year-old girl straight out of school, basically.
Yeah.
She didn't know anything about the world. So, of course, she got caught by the Master and hypnotised straight away, because that's what happened to people who didn't know who the Master was. But later, in space, he tried to hypnotise her again, and she looked up and learnt how not to get hypnotised. So she recited nursery rhymes and nonsense, and it stopped him hypnotising her, and it really annoyed him, because I've done this to you, before, and it always worked. Why not now? Because Jo had learned, and Jo had been awesome enough to think, no, I need to be better than this. Mm-hmm. So yes, she definitely grew as a character. And then obviously, if you know anything about the history of the character, when she left to be with Cliff, who was basically just a younger version of the Doctor.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
She became a bit of an eco-warrior and kept getting arrested, and she's in one of the units, Unit Assembled, so they're the ones with Gemma Redgrave and Ingrid Oliver.
Yeah, she turned up in Sarah Jane Adventures.
She did in Death of the Doctor.
Yeah.
And they basically carry on that character in Unit, and it's set after that, and she knows about the 11th Doctor, and she talks to Osgood about the Doctor and tells her loads of stories, and she mentions Santiago, she mentions Cliff, she's still with Cliff. She's got something like 7 children and about 14 grandchildren or something like that.
Yeah.
But she's still up for an adventure, because that's what the Doctor would do.
Oh, yes.
So it's one of those situations where she didn't leave because she got sick of travelling with the Doctor. She just went off on other adventures, which is great. Well, it's that whole thing of the Doctor making people better.
Yeah.
You got that whole argument that Davros gives, is that you just fashion people into weapons that you use. And it's the Doctor himself doesn't see it that way. He sees it as people who travel with him become better people because of travelling with him. Mm-hmm. And in Jo Grant's case, I would say that's certainly true. Mm-hmm. And what
she left of her own volition, whereas Sarah Jane didn't.
Well, she didn't have a choice, did she? I think Liz Sladen just wanted to leave the show. Which is a shame, but there you go. What's your favourite Jo Grant moments or stories?
I think it would have to be the Green Death for Jo, because she gets so much to do in that one.
Yeah, definitely. She spends a lot of time with Cliff as well.
Yeah.
I like that joke. He says, do you know anything about insects? She says, yeah, a little bit. He says, well, what's got 20 legs? And it's like a purple body or something. He says, I don't know. He says, me neither, was crawling up your leg. It's just lovely. It's also really sad when the Doctor leaves the party as well.
Yeah, because he's the one with the tear in his eye.
But Jo totally understands why he'd leave as well. And I watching it the other day, because I thought, I'll watch some bits, and I'll watch some sort of moment. It's exactly that Moffat, the sneaky fuck, put it in Sherlock.
Yes, he did.
Because that his last vow or whatever it is.
Yeah, when the marriage.
Yeah, when John gets married to Mary and Sherlock leaves, that's exactly the same as the Green Death.
Yeah, it is.
He gets a bit teary and has to leave because he's a bit lonely and that. He gets, my mate's gone now. And I'm certain, because I don't think either of them wrote it, but obviously Gatiss is quite a big Pertwee fan.
Yes, well, they're both massive fans all over anyway.
Oh yeah, definitely. Oddly enough, I was when I was watching Wurzel Gummidge, there's a bit in the titles where Wurzel sort of looks to camera and does a face. Mm-hmm. And it's the same face Matt Gatiss pulls when he's doing like Briss.
Yes.
Hilary Briss.
Yes, I was just thinking that when you started mentioning it, but it's Hilary Briss.
It's the Hilary Briss grin, isn't it? And it's like, dude, yo. Because I don't think Gatiss has made any sort of bones about the fact that he's a massive John Pertwee fan.
Mm-hmm. No.
A massive Third Doctor fan. Because he's written quite a lot of stuff. I think he wrote one of the first Doctor Who novels with Pertwee in it. But obviously after Joe Grant came Sarah Jane Smith. And it's a bit of a funny position and a bit of a funny thing with Sarah Jane, because she was never going to be considered a third Doctor companion. She's always been considered a fourth Doctor companion.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons for that is that Pertwee doesn't seem as invested in that last season as he has done before.
No.
And obviously Liz Sladen has said herself it's because there's a number of things. He knew it was his last season. Roger Delgado, who played the masthead, died.
Yeah.
And Pertwee sort of wasn't feeling it anymore. So that last season with Sarah Jane, they're good. They're good stories. Invasion of the Dinosaurs is a bit ropey, but that's not the story's fault. That's the dinosaurs' fault.
Yeah.
The story itself is fine. You've got the Monster of Peladon, which it's okay. It's not as good as The Curse. And it's wearing its politics on its sleeve, is that one. This is about labour rules and working conditions and demarcation, and yes, we get it. We understand. It's a bit by the numbers. And Planet of the Spiders, it's just one episode. It's just devoted to him driving about.
Yeah, I haven't watched all of that because spiders.
Yeah.
Not even obviously fake spiders, but no, I can't watch it.
I love it. I think it's great. It's basically Third Doctor's greatest hits with Gareth Hunt and spiders in it.
Yeah.
But there is just one episode, and the basic whole runtime is just him driving about trying to catch somebody. Using every vehicle that he wanted to use. Including the fucking Hoomobile.
Yeah, the Hoomobile. Bessie.
I hate the Hoomobile.
Yes.
Bessie I love.
Bessie's brilliant. She's the best thing ever.
Bessie's great, and I love the fact that I like the big trikes that he drives in Day of the Daleks as well. But I really despise the Hoomobile because it's just, no. I don't like it's got Who Won on. Yeah. I don't like it. That's the Doctor's version of question marks on the lapels. Basically. It's too arch, and I don't know. But, Planet of the Spiders is great, and we'll talk about that in a couple of minutes. Because obviously, you kind of need to. But, so Sarah Jane, she was there, she got on well, she was great in the Time Warrior, but she didn't really shine until the Fourth Doctor came along, I feel. Yeah.
And a bit feministy, which is no bad thing at all.
Oh yeah. I mean, we will talk about Sarah Jane next time in great length.
Yeah. Yeah, we should do a proper full episode just on Sarah Jane.
Oh, we definitely will. But we like I say, the Fourth Doctor era, I think is probably that's the place to talk about Sarah Jane, not the Third Doctor era, because she didn't do a lot with the Third Doctor. But we will talk about possibly, I don't know, the best loved character apart from the Doctor of that era, and it's got to be the Brigadier.
Yes.
Brigadier Alistair Gordon Lethbridge Stewart.
His story was definitely the demons.
Oh, absolutely. Chap, we win there. 5 rounds rapid.
And these the other story, that was the Seventh Doctor story. I can't remember what it's called.
Battlefield,
yes. But we'll come to that later, obviously.
Absolutely. You got the Three Doctors as well. Is a great Brigadier story.
Oh my God, when he enters the TARDIS. So this is what you've been doing with all that money.
It's just this steadfast disbelief at everything that's happening as the Doctor's just winding him up. Oh, right, so you're back, are you? Second Doctor, you're just doing this to wind me up, changing your face, aren't you? And it's like, no, I'm not. It's like, I changed into him. No, you didn't. You've changed back. You've just done it to wind me up, haven't you? Make my life difficult. Where are we now? Oh, so like a beach. Oh, it's probably Norfolk. Cromer, I'm guessing. Which there was a brilliant callback in Day of the Doctor to that as well.
Yes.
Because when Kate is looking for the file about Bulty Doctors, doctors meeting each other, the file's called Cromer. But the Brigadier is a great story arc because he starts off, he knows who the Doctor is, he kind of believes some of what the Doctor's saying, but he sees the Brigadier, he's a military-minded man, everything's got a place, everything's got a reason.
Yeah. I also
Doctor's there to do...
Why there's no Cybermen in the Doctor's stories. Because if you come across the Cybermen again, you would have gone, yeah, I believe everything the Doctor tells me.
Yeah, I think it's because they had problems with Jerry Davis and Kit Pedler, and they would have cost them too much money to bring them back. Mm-hmm. Whereas they worked something out with Nation, where he would phone in a couple of scripts every now and then. Yeah.
Invisible aliens who wear
do you know what? I don't mind Planet of the Daleks. It does drag.
It does drag. I do like that story, though, but it could have done with one less episode.
Yeah, I think every 7 episode one could do with one less episode. 6 is fine. 7's too much. Yeah. I don't mind Day of the Daleks. I prefer, Planet of the Daleks. I prefer Day of the Daleks. Mm-hmm. I know that is complete phoning it in to the point where they put Lewis Marks on because Dix had to basically rewrite the whole thing. Yeah. Because Terry Nation was such an unmitigating arsewipe. That he would just, I can't be bothered. It's like Genesis of the Daleks. It always winds me up it's got Terry Nation's name on it because it isn't Terry Nation.
Just created them and insisted that he had them.
Well, it's basically, I mean, he wrote this thing, then Robert Holmes just said, yeah, I have to rewrite all this. Because it's just, everything's the same as every other bloody Dalek story. It's the same with Day of the Daleks. But I do like Day of the Daleks because it's got this weird terrorist angle to it. Mm-hmm. That I don't know, it's a fun story, plus I like all the stuff in the future as well. But yeah, Brigadier starts off as this guy who was very put upon, forces the Doctor to join UNIT basically, and then for the first season it's like an antagonistic, really. It's like Sam and Diane in Cheers. Mm-hmm. Basically it's just antagonistic all the way, and then from sort of the second season onwards, they start to trust each other. And by, the time that Planet of the Spiders rolls around, they're just hanging out. Yeah. They really are just best mates by that point, and it's lovely. Yeah. It's just, he becomes his best mate. Mm-hmm. And even though they're two very different people, they kind of,
even though he's grumpy old, he's very, very whimsical, the Doctor, even back then.
Oh yeah, absolutely. He's paternal, isn't he? Mm-hmm. He's the third Doctor. He's grumpy guts, but so obviously the 3 Doctors he gets to leave. I mean, he gets to sort of go away, and they give him his knowledge of time travel back, but he keeps staying at UNIT.
Yeah, and then by the time the 4th comes around, I'm away.
He can't get it. Yeah, he can't exactly. I mean, in Robot, he can't wait to get away. Mm-hmm. Because he knows he's been there too long and that the third Doctor was far too comfortable. Which is kind of one of his downfalls anyway, in Planet of the Spiders. The whole point of Planet of the Spiders is that he's fucked up and not rectified it because he was scared to, and he's scared of spiders. Like we all are. Who likes spiders?
I love spiders.
I love them when they're far, far away from me. Mm.
I don't know the spider thing in the spider corner, but when the other night, lying in bed, and bloody spider just came in bed with us.
No, I'll be burning the bed and moving house.
I've just moved. How the fuck did it get up here anyway? I live on the bloody 5th floor.
Oh, they're good climbers. They're kind of known for it, Yeah. It's kind of their thing.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
That's the stupidest thing I've heard you say ever. Oh, bloody spiders climbing up things. Yeah, that's what they do.
But it's really high up here.
Right.
Yeah, well, they blow around on the wind as well, and I've had the windows open a lot lately.
Do they?
Yeah.
Ugh, bloody
how
things.
they travel around when they want.
That's true. Ugh, bloody things. But, so the Brigadier gets a massive story arc as well. I suppose we should mention the Master as well. Because he was kind of an important character in Doctor Who.
he made the Doctor's life even more fun, that unit. Because, yay, somebody from my own planet.
Yeah, that's a bromance. I mean, they go on about this Missy Doctor thing. There was a bromance there. You watch things like the Sea Devils.
Oh, yeah.
They loved each other before Missy came along. That whole sword fight thing is just basically massive bromance. It's like... And that thing about, oh, well, you know, Missy trying to get the Doctor to be on her side and that. Well, it's Delgado kept saying that in things like The Demons. He's saying, you know, why must we fight? If you joined me, we could rule the universe.
But the Doctor doesn't want to rule the universe. That's his whole point. He just wants
to travel about.
Yeah, he just wants to travel around, fix a few things here and there.
Well, he says, I don't want to rule the universe. I just want to see it.
Yes.
And that's the whole difference between them, because obviously the Doctor, if he wanted to, could probably rule the universe.
Yes.
He's clever enough to be able to do that, absolutely, and the Master knows it, and he knows it. Mm-hmm. But it would never even occur to the Doctor to want to do that. The one moment that it does, I mean, the Waters of Mars, it just switches completely in a second, because it's not who he is.
Yeah, because he says time doesn't rule him, he rules time, and he can do what he likes, and then she goes and kills herself to prove that he can't do it.
Yeah, exactly. And the Third Doctor kind of innately knows that anyway, and would never even want to. But obviously it was a good thing that they gave him this, because they wanted a Moriarty to his Holmes, and he was a bit Holmesian anyway, was the Third Doctor. So they gave him this character, and by their own admission, they overused him, because in every season, it was his third season, no, his second season, wasn't it? Yeah. The villain in every one, even though there was a tertiary villain, it was always the Master who was behind it.
Yeah. With a the telephone broke. That was a terrible Master.
But wasn't Roger Delgado great?
Yes, he was.
I am the Master. You will obey me. He's great. Oh, absolutely. I mean, over the top by design. But we never got completely over the top. Mm-hmm. He sort of reined it in enough that he was just this sort of moustache twirling villain. Mm-hmm. He wasn't Soldeed off the Hans and Niemann, for instance.
Oh, God. Well, Hans and Niemann.
I love the Hans and Niemann. Behave yourself. But he had the look of a villain, even though he wasn't. Apparently, he was the most cowardly man ever. Mm-hmm. He was scared of everything. Mm-hmm. But he had this great look, and he was suave, and he was charismatic, and he was everything that you'd think that sort of character would be. Mm-hmm. And it's something that, I don't know, I think Anthony Ainley kind of lost it a bit. Don't get me wrong, I love Anthony Ainley. Mm-hmm. But I think JNT tried to make him too much like Delgado rather than let him go his own way.
Yeah. He came more into himself in Survival then.
If he played it like that, if he'd been allowed to play it like that, then it would have been brilliant. But JNT, for some reason, wanted a Roger Delgado clone, and it just wasn't him. Roger Delgado was very much his own character, his own thing. And his Master was great. I mean, there's that, we mentioned it last time, but there's that whole speech in The Demons where he's saying, I can give you everything you want if only you'll trust me. And, Mr. Chapman, how's the Christmas Club money going?
Yeah.
Are you going to get that back in by Christmas? And they said on the TV Cream podcast, imagine that said by a Dalek, and it just doesn't make sense. No. It's just the genius of that character is that he could be talking about massive cosmic issues, or he could be talking to people in a little village and trying to get them on side. He had that skill that he could do. And he got on well with Pertwee. The chemistry was there. So what was your favourite Master moment? What was your best bits of him?
Terror of the Autons.
He's good in that.
Yeah.
Especially when he kills that dude in the chair.
Oh God, the chair.
That's awful.
I know. Another horrible death.
That's Robert Holmes.
Just threw a bucket in the head.
I was just Robert Holmes just wanted to scare the little buggers,
Yeah.
as he said. Because you've got all the Autons killing everybody, and you've got the bit with the phone line, which is pretty awful as well.
Yeah.
But that bit with the chair, that's truly terrible. That's a bloke getting smothered.
Yeah, and Master's just sitting there so calm, cool and collected, just watching them die.
Like he says, no patience for idiots. And Michael Wisher's looking on as well.
Yeah.
Michael Wisher, who's in loads of Third Doctor stuff.
Yes, he was in Ambassadors of Death.
He was. He's in everything in Michael Wisher, I think. He's also the Daleks as well.
Yeah.
That's one good... Oh, sorry, go on.
He pops up as Davros at some point, doesn't he?
Yeah, it's a little story
Yeah.
that nobody remembers.
No.
He was alright. It's one of the good things about the Third Doctor Adventures they do on Big Finish, because obviously they've got the Fourth Doctor Adventures, which they do. They've got the monthly range, so they don't really need to do 5th, 6th, 7th. But they've recently started doing Third Doctor Adventures, and they've got a Welsh actor called Tim Trelaw to do the Third Doctor, and he does really good sort of impersonation characterisation of the Third Doctor, and he makes it clear that he's not doing John Pertwee, he's doing the Third Doctor.
Yeah.
And you can see him, you can hear him getting better at what he's doing as he gets more comfortable doing it. And they did do a Dalek story, and the great thing about Nick Briggs is that because that guy's got an encyclopedic knowledge of Doctor Who and the Daleks, in every story he's in, he tries to tailor the voice of the Daleks to that Doctor. So because the main voice actor of the Daleks was Michael Wisher during that period, all the Daleks in that sound like Michael Wisher Daleks, which is great, because they've got a very different voice than the Roy Skelton Daleks, which came after it.
Oh yeah, I really look forward to him doing those ones. They all sound like Zippy.
Yeah. They did somebody untreated the voice. I think it was they did it because Skelton did the Dalek voices in Evil of the Daleks, and he did it in obviously Genesis onwards.
Yeah,
he was the Dalek. They untreated it. It's basically Zippy's voice. It's fantastic. But Wisher did them in the Pertwee era mainly. I think Skelton did a couple of them, but mainly it was Michael Wisher. David Graham, I think, came back as well. Wisher had a very, very distinctive voice.
Yes, he does.
Which is fantastic. They got such great actors during that period as well. So, like we mentioned Peter Miles, and obviously you got Jeffrey Palmer, who's in a couple of others, and he always dies. It's like Michael Sherd.
Yeah,
he always dies. Poor Michael Sherd. But yeah, so obviously, like I say, they tailored that, and they actually do have a Cyberman story coming in Volume 4, which is coming in, and they've got the Monk comes back as well, so Rufus Hound's back in it, which is always pleases me to see Rufus Hound popping up in Doctor Who, because he loves it so much, even though he gave it away on the live show.
Rufus Hound followed me on Twitter once because he thought I was the other Leigh Francis.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and then when he realised I wasn't, he unfollowed us.
Boo! I'll have to I'll have to have a word with him. Because she actually does know him. Yeah, so obviously you've got the Master, who's brilliant, and you've got some great monsters like the Draconians popped up as well. You've got the Axons who popped up. You've got the Autons first started in the Third Doctor's era. And who were your favourite Third Doctor villains, foes?
Well, obviously the Master, and definitely, like I said, definitely the Autons, because that story just summed up the 70s. Everything that you could possibly 70s was there. Plastic everything, horrible wallpaper.
I love it.
Ugly dolls.
Yeah, troll dolls, isn't it?
Yeah, it's that wood paneling everywhere. All that was missing was an avocado bathroom suite.
Well, they probably were there. They just didn't show bathrooms back then. You've got Dudley Simpson, obviously, taking over music duties then as well. That's when he first starts, and he basically just did the whole 70s. apart from a few stories here and there. And one of my favourite pieces of music is the one that's on the Three Doctors. I think he used it a few times when he was driving in Bessie. It's like, it's just, it's so early 70s synthesizer. It's unbelievable.
Yes, a lot of the music I remember in Pertwee was very metallic. Not heavy metal, the proper metallic noises.
Artificial.
Yes.
There's no way, obviously that changed with the Fourth Doctor, didn't it? And it became a lot more, sort of orchestral.
Yes.
As it were.
Darker.
But, obviously they're experimenting with synths and stuff like that. Yeah. They've just come out clearly and they're just thinking, let's just try it.
Yeah.
Then you've got weird ones like the Silurians, which has a very distinctive soundtrack because it was, I can't remember who it was now. One of them was Carey Blyton. I think it could have been Carey Blyton who did the Silurians. But because he was trying to, the composer was trying to make it sound sort of archaic and old and ancient, he used ancient weapons. Ancient instruments.
Yeah.
A lot of people hate the Silurian soundtrack. I'm not one of those people. I really like it.
Yeah, I do.
Because you got that very distinctive bloody Silurians theme. I crap on about the Silurians because I fucking love it. I like the Sea Devils as well.
Yeah.
I like again, it's definitely British because you've got that sort of impending doom that everything's going to go wrong.
Yeah.
And that he's not going to win the day and that the Sea Devils are not going to be integrated into human society, and it's a shame. Because they've done nothing wrong. They're just a bit arseholey sometimes. Yeah, they won't survive. Funny that.
Yeah.
Going back to the 12th Doctor, evil's just what you're saying for the other end of the cutlery.
Yeah.
And they don't even want to eat humans. They just want to live on the planet and take it back. But, oh well.
Yeah.
But, final thoughts on the Third Doctor then. What is it you really love about the Third Doctor and John Pertwee in general?
Quite a lot. Like I said, he's childish. He looks very straight-laced, but all of a sudden he's very whimsical.
Great costumes as well.
Yes. Anderson capes, lots of velvet, frilly shirts, the bow tie.
What is it the Sixth Doctor said? The big-nosed, ruffled toff.
Yes.
I do like he used to eat a lot as well. He's the first Doctor you see properly eating.
Yeah.
Because you got that bit in the Sea Devils with the sandwiches. Which a lot of people, I've looked online again, and a lot of people are saying, oh, well, yeah, he was an arsehole, the writers didn't know. It says, of course they knew. That's the whole point of that scene, is where he eats all them sandwiches. He has a go at Joe for having sandwiches, eats all the sandwiches, and says, I'm so sorry.
One thing I have noticed, I've seen other people saying on Twitter and that the first 3 Doctors, they always have time to go and eat and sleep.
Yeah, and they sort of write that out.
Yeah. From
the 4th Doctor onwards. Mm-hmm. I guess because the 4th Doctor became a bit of a superhero, which we'll explore in the next episode. But yeah, we've also got the bit in the Day of the Daleks as well, where he's drinking that wine and eating that cheese.
Yeah.
Which also leads to a catchphrase, because obviously she was bringing some to Benton, was Joe, some food and drink, and then Mike takes it off for Captain Yates. And that's the first instance where you hear RHIP. Mm-hmm. Rank has its privileges. And they still use that in the audios now when Mike Yates pops up. Mike Yates, who, according to some of the fiction that he's in, is actually gay.
I think so. He spent a lot of time with Benton and the Doctor.
Well, it comes from a joke that Courtney said on The End of the Demons, because obviously in The End of the Demons they've got that line, it says, would you like a dance, Brigadier? And Brigadier said, I'd rather have a pint. So Courtney said at the end of the film in there, he said, oh, well, that settles it then. Mike Yates is gay and the Brigadier's an alcoholic. So that sort of came in, the writers sort of put it in that Mike Yates, all those girls he goes out with, a bit of a smokescreen, he's actually gay.
Yeah.
Which I'm fine with. I mean, I don't know if that comes from that or Richard Franklin himself as well, but There we go.
Camp for an army captain.
They're all camp. But there's no more camp than John Levine, who plays Benton. He's the campest. He's right old lovey.
Yeah, John Benton's brilliant.
I love Benton. Benton's great.
Especially when he goes with the TARDIS and the Third Doctor. Posted that on their Facebook page.
Yeah. Huh? I can't quite cope with it. Aren't you going to say that it's bigger on the inside than it is on the outside? Everybody else does.
Kind of obvious, isn't it?
Yeah. There's that great callback though where it's 11th Doctor where Rory says, "Oh yeah, I've been reading up." I like it when people say it's bigger on the inside than the outside. I live for that moment. Say it. Say it. What? Say that it's bigger on it.
Clara did. She went, "That's smaller on the outside."
Oh, that's weird. Nobody says that.
I think Martha said it. They did it the best though. She went in, walked back out all the way around twice, and then back in again.
Yeah, and then you've got 10 mouthing it's bigger on the inside. My favourite of all of those is 12 when he does it. My turn. It's just like, at last. What? My turn. But yeah, brilliant. Oh, great stuff. Things I love about the 12th Doctor then. So obviously Sonic Screwdriver becomes more of a thing. Mm-hmm. He's an action man, and you can tell. Yeah. I love Venusian Aikido.
All of them did most of their own stunts anyway. I think Delgado, who was terrified.
Oh, poor Roger Delgado. He hated every second of it. But Pertwee, there's a great... I think it's on one of the DVDs. I think it could be... Let's have a look. I think it's The Demons or something like that it is. There's a Panopticon 93 interview, like a panel. And Pertwee says, obviously, Roger was completely terrified. I was totally up for doing any of this stuff because I'm a bit of a Burke. So he would just throw himself in harm's way. Yeah. And Manning would follow him.
Well, she had no choice because she was so tiny and they couldn't find a stunt man small enough to do them for her.
They did eventually. Stuart Fell. That bit when that bit on the fort in the Sea Devils where they're going up the ladder. Yeah. That's not her. That's Stuart Fell. Who played Alpha Centauri as well. But he had to get up in Joe's suit and with a wig on, and he said to make it more like Joe, he had to wiggle his ass. And he just so if it looks weird, that's the reason it looks weird, because he's wiggling his ass trying to look like Joe Grant. And because he's a heavy set little guy, it just doesn't work. But never mind. But yeah, obviously the costumes are great. I love the Third Doctor's costume. I love the fact that he gets so indignant. I love it when he says, "Now listen to me. Do as I say." It's just he's this aristocrat by this point. Mm-hmm. More so than his first two. But he has to be to get listened to, because people on Earth are idiots. And it's that whole thing. Somebody mentioned the other day, it's really difficult being the smartest man in the room. He gets frustrated with it. Mm-hmm. We did have, actually, I put, that we were going to be doing the Third Doctor episode on, Doctor Who in the 70s, on, Facebook in their group, and a couple of people did actually reply. Although, Di Stefano said, "He's my favourite, drinking wine and eating cheese, Gorgonzola, before battling ghosts that turn out to be time travellers, Ogrons and Daleks." Of course, Ogrons are great. And then we got Phil Clements, said, "This show was great, but clearly wasn't being used to her best potential. I think the character left for the right reasons. She didn't need to be patted on the head in the same way that Romana didn't for the Fourth Doctor. Mm-hmm. Joe Grant didn't tussle for space with the Third Doctor, but Katie Manning played her wonderfully, and she was very likeable." She keeps coming back, is the thing, and Doctor Who fans of all ages, because you've got a lot of younger ones, because they watch Death of the Doctor. Yeah. She was Russell T Davies' favourite, I think, was Joe Grant. And he was desperate to get her in the show, and that's why she appears in that. But I think, like with Sarah Jane, a lot of young people then saw Joe Grant and said, "Who is she?" Watched her stuff and said, "She's awesome." Yeah. Which is great, because Katie Manning is so lovely as well. He just seems like the nicest person in the world. She says there, Sarah Jane Smith was a healthy blend of the two and the perfect companion to usher in the Who that was to come. Exactly what we said there. The unit relationships are a legacy of the Third Doctor era that provided a lot of nuanced exploration. Unit allowed important questions to be asked that remain a part of Doctor Who to this day. I mean, the fact that Unit is still a thing in the Doctor Who universe.
Yes.
Is a big, massive thing. And obviously you've got Kate Stewart, who is a character from the classic series. In the BBV stuff, that's where Kate Stewart first popped up after Doctor Who had ended. And they kept her around. Chibnall brought her back and obviously played brilliantly by Gemma Redgrave. He does say then, my favourite stories from Pertwee era are probably Spearhead from Space. I do like that one as well. Claws of Axos, The Demons, Day of the Daleks, Three Doctors, Curse of Peladon, Frontier in Space, and Monster of Peladon. What are your favourite Third Doctor stories?
The Three Doctors, simply for the one moment. The second Doctor says, we need to confuse it a bit. Is there a television set anywhere?
Yeah. That says everything about Patrick Troughton's opinion of television.
And I love the bickering between all three of them.
Yes, and the fact that the first Doctor ain't playing. You're not playing around. I like the Time Lord stuff as well, even though they're not specific. They are called Thomas, but they're not from Gallifrey at that point, which is interesting. But yeah, I love Pertwee and Troughton's competitive natures.
Yeah, well, the same person, so obviously they're going to...
Oh yeah. Well, they're egomaniacs, they're actors. So Three Doctors, any others?
Spearhead from Space. I love that one because of the way the Doctor's regenerations. That one particular regeneration, it set the scene for the rest of them. Absolutely bloody horrific and traumatic.
Yeah, well, he's out of the first episode pretty much, isn't he?
And that reflected when Nine regenerated into 10. He was out of it for the whole episode, apart from the last 5 minutes.
Yeah. Cheap.
Yes.
Don't have to pay a tenant all that money.
And shoes.
Exactly. Shoes. Where are my shoes? Oh, well, no wonder you didn't recognise me. Still, I don't know. It's good chin.
In the shower.
Yes. And singing. He's always singing.
Yes.
Because he's an old ham. He loves singing. Never did weekends. Didn't want to do weekends.
It's only the Third Doctor and the 11th Doctor that you've actually seen with no clothes on, isn't it?
Yeah, that's where he's get his tattoo. You see John Pertwee's naval tattoo, because obviously he was in the Navy.
Yeah.
And then they basically retconned it to say, oh yeah, it means exile. It's a Gallifreyan tattoo. It means in exile. It went away when he stopped being in exile. Clever. Excellent stuff. For me, I would say yes, Spearhead from Space is a particular favourite. I love the Demons. The Demons is pretty much perfect. Day of the Daleks I really like. Sea Devils and Silurians are probably my favourite ones from the Third Doctor era.
Yeah.
Or the Time Warrior. I really like the Time Warrior.
That one's got Doc Cotton in. She looks exactly the same then as she does now.
Yeah. It's got that dude from Boone in as well, not Michael Elphick, but his boss.
Yeah.
He plays Angron. And obviously the Sontarans are in, it's first appearance of the Sontarans, and you watch it back after hearing Dan Starkey doing Strax, and it's like, he's dead perfect on for Links. He gets Sontarans, does Dan Starkey.
Yes.
That's what we need in the new series. We're not going to get it, but we need more Strax.
Yes.
Or if they're going to Big Finish do Strax stuff, because he does Sontarans in all the time in Big Finish, just Starkey. But, yeah, so like I say, the Third Doctor adventures are coming out on Big Finish. If you've not listened to the other ones, please listen to them. They are really good. And one of them is written by Andrew Smith, the guy who did Full Circle. So he's still writing Doctor Who stories, which is good. But yeah, lots of Third Doctor stuff out there. Please go see the series and watch the episodes if you've never seen them, especially things like the Silurians, because they're really, really good. Leigh.
Yep.
If somebody wanted to find you on the whole wide world of the interwebs, where's the best place to do so?
Twitter. Leigh fits in.
There we go. Brilliant stuff. Yes, she's always on Twitter. She's always retweeting my shit, actually. because I put loads of shit on Twitter and Facebook. Basically made a decision not to get involved in political discussion anymore, just put up Doctor Who stuff. So
I've been hiding from that a bit. Started mainly follow people who were absolutely bonkers, funny bonkers, not crazy, insane bonkers, and Doctor Who people. Yeah.
Oh, I'm trying to stay away from Doctor Who people who keep trying to politicise it.
Oh, yeah, never mind.
And say, oh no, John Pertwee was a horrible sexist. Yeah, he died 20 years ago when he was 76. He was an old man. So funny that. Keep it away from that stuff. Let's not get involved in that at all. But if you want to find me on Facebook, it's Glenn Jakeman. Please do send me a message before you try and add me. Otherwise, I won't know where you're from, and I'll refuse and delete the requests, which I don't want to do. If you want to find me on Twitter, it's at Cymru Nerd Cave. And if you want to find us on Facebook, it's facebook.com/Nerva Beacon Podcast. Usually try and put a couple of things up a night myself, and obviously Leigh puts up stuff all the time as well, which is cool. And Nerva Beacon on Twitter is at Nerva Beacon Pod. Very easy to find. Excellent stuff. Next time we will be going forward into the 4th Doctor era. And that might have to be a 2-parter.
Yes,
because you've got 7 years of stuff and 3 very distinct eras to cover. Really distinct eras. One really good era, one kind of alright era, and one very interesting era.
Yeah.
An era I didn't like at the time and have now come back to like. But we'll talk about that next time. In the meantime, we are not going to leave you with the normal outro theme. We're going to leave you this week with, because we have to, John Pertwee singing I Am the Doctor. Because he's awesome. It's brilliant.
Yes, it is.
So excellent stuff. Leigh, say bye-bye to everybody.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye, everybody. We shall see you next week. Or next time, should I say. Bye-bye for now.
Across the void beyond the mind, the empty space that circles time, I see where others stumble blind to seek a truth they never find. Eternal wisdom is my guide. I am the Doctor. Through cosmic waste the TARDIS flies to taste the secret source of life. A present science can't deny exists within, outside, behind the latitude of human minds. I am the Doctor. My voyage dissects the course of time. Who knows, you say, but are you right? Who searches deep to find the light that glows so darkly in the night? Toward that point I guide my flight. As fingers move to end mankind, metallic teeth begin their grind. With sword of truth I turn to fight the satanic powers of the night. Is your faith before your mind? Know me. Am I the Doctor?